Hey everyone, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I'm here to share a Topflight Stamps design team project. This is a belated birthday card for a dear friend whose birthday I missed due to things going on in my life recently. So I'm taking this Quetzal Craft torn paper stamp. It's the larger of the two in the set, and I'm just inking it up with some Memento Tuxedo black ink. I'm going to be Copic coloring this, and I wanted a good, strong, clear impression. So I stamped it out twice using my Misty tool, and now I'm going to be taking the bunny rabbit, looking at his stopwatch. This is the white rabbit from the Carabelle Studio Alice's Adventures in Wonderland stamp set, and I thought this bunny would be perfect for a belated birthday card, given that he says, I'm late for a very important date. So I'm stamping this out as well, just with Memento Tuxedo black ink. Because that jacket that he has on is so solid, I ended up stamping it out 3 times. For his vest and for the little pocket watch, I am using some yellow and gold tones to Copic color that up. And I'm just adding the yellow orange, the YR24, to add more of a golden hue rather than a yellow hue. I wanted that kind of rich luxe color, and that YR24 is great for that. For his white shirt, I'm using an N1 just to give a little bit of shadowing and give it a little bit of dimension, not leave just the plain white. And I like that neutral for that white collar. Then for the bunny himself, I'm using a warm gray. This is a W1. It's very pale, but just enough to give a hint of dimension around the eyes, at the top of the head, at the bridge of his nose or muzzle area underneath his nose, around his little fingers, the shadow from his cuff on the sides of his fingers there. And I decide now I'm going to blend that warm gray W1 out with a W0, even paler. And I'm just trying to connect that warm gray to the white of the paper. I'm going to give him a little blush with an R30. It's a little bit paler than my normal blush R20, just because I wanted to keep him looking masculine. And I'm blending that out with a 0, just the blender marker, to not have a harsh edge around that blush area. Now for the whole image from that torn paper stamp, I've decided I'm going to make kind of a swirly coloring. And to do that, I first wanted to just map it out lightly with a plain pencil. And I'm doing it so that I can have a swirl rather than just concentric circles. I end up, it's not really that relevant, other than you can kind of get a little bit of a sense of the swirl rather than just concentric circles. But I wanted that look of kind of spiraling in. And I'm gonna use the colors that I associate with the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. So I'm using red violet here. I believe it's an RV55. But if you're interested in the exact Copic colors that I used, please check out my blog post, which I will link to in the description box below. And you can see that I'm having to occasionally erase the pencil mark because I don't want it showing through. And I just did a loose sketch to begin with, so it's not perfect by any means. It's not like exact circles or anything like that, but it is important to try to erase your pencil marks because sometimes they can be smeared with the alcohol inks. But I thought getting in that spiral look, smaller, and then getting a little bit larger and larger, and having that kind of twisted feeling of the spiral would add to the look of maybe falling into this hole, into the magical world of Alice in Wonderland. And I'm doing the one swirly section with this RV, and then I'm going to erase all of the pencil marks because whatever's visible still, I don't want it interfering with the light blue violet, the BV01. I end up making this color a little bit more saturated or a little darker, but I'm gonna first put in just a plain layer of this BV01 right up against this RV55, and I think that that's a pretty good match for the colors of that Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. And the Cheshire Cat also has these stripes, so I thought, you know, that's a nice way to kind of tie in the Cheshire Cat's coloring in with this card. Now, this is just plain, you know, get a base layer of this color down kind of coloring. There's no magic to this at all. I just wanted to make sure I covered up the entire area. And then I'm going to go back in and add a little bit more depth to this blue violet or BV area. So I'm adding the next shade up, just a BV02. And you can see already that it kind of adds a little bit more texture and fun to add this second layer of color, even though it's very similar to the BV01. Adding this extra kind of textured coloring, just this flicking, adds a little bit of motion as well. Now for the torn paper that's curled out in the image, I'm gonna color this up with some pale blues, kind of blue-green. In my opinion, it's kind of like a teal or aqua color, and that is a reference to Alice's dress. And you see I have a BV02. I actually thought that the curled under part of these torn areas I colored with that. I'm skipping that because I end up covering it all up with a BV02. I think maybe off camera though. So just wanted to give you a sense of how I'm adding dimension to these curled torn paper areas. I started with a 000, then I added a little bit of shadow with a 01, and then this darker teal color is with a B02. And I'm just following the image hash lines, or where the shadow lines are in the image. These images from Quetzalcraft are so easy to color up because they have all of these indications of where the shadows would be. Now I'm going back in and kind of blending back with the 01, connecting the palest areas to the darker areas. And then I'm gonna now use an X-Acto blade to cut out a little section at the base of this torn area, because I thought it would be fun to add a little dimension and tuck in that bunny. I'm going to add some double-sided foam adhesive dots behind that bunny, and I'm going to leave the base of that bunny just without the foam dots, but I wanted to make sure I supported the arms, the ears, and the torso and the head with these really thick foam dots. And I'm taking off the release paper, and then I'm going to tuck him into that curled paper torn area. So it looks like the bunny is popping out of Alice in Wonderland's world there. Now, I realized I had forgotten to color in the shaded areas of the torn paper stamped image. And I really wanted to add more of a feeling of dimension. So I'm taking some neutral grays. This is, I believe, N1 and 2, I'm not sure. Again, if you're interested in the specifics, please check out my blog post because I have listed everything there. Oh yeah, there we go. It's an N4. It's much darker than I had originally thought. Just to get in those nooks and crannies and really make the blue pop, the blue and the purple and violet pop. And to do that, I think you need that contrast. So I wanted to add that darker neutral gray. And now I'm blending it out a little bit with an N1 to try and connect it a little bit more to the rest of that white cardstock card base. And I'm just kind of, you know, making it up as I go along, but basically trying to extend those shadowed areas a little bit so that it looks like that really does have dimension and is torn out from this card front. And that's really it in terms of coloring. It's really relatively simple. You see me here taking off some extra foam dots, just little tiny strips on the back side of that curled torn paper area where the bunny's gonna be coming out. And I'm just lining the back of this card base with some blue cardstock just to make it all clean looking on the inside. And I'm taking a Power Poppy Party Time stamp set, and I'm using some gray. This is Lawn Fawn Hippo, I think is the color. Some gray for the cake slice and some Memento Tuxedo Black ink for the happy birthday. just so that the inside liner of the card looks finished as well. The sentiment for the card front, I'm late for a very important date. I just hand wrote with an ultra fine point Sharpie marker in kind of a teal color that I thought would match the torn paper front. And I used a Copic multi-liner pen in 0.05, super fine, to add just a little bit of shading or shadow dimension to that sentiment. And that's really it. I hope you've enjoyed this process video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys are having a wonderful crafty day.